All right, Doug. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. It is a sorry about that. Good evening. Welcome to a happy Tuesday night. We're back from the Clash. Still a little tired, but doing pretty well. Had a great time. So we've got Uncle Smiley's here. Davo is here. Then we got a few other folks lurking in the background. So yeah, we'll give it a minute or two, and we'll go ahead and let some other folks filter in, and then we'll go ahead and start talking about the Clash. It was definitely a great time, and had a lot of fun. So. So, yep. So Davo said, "Glad you're back." Yep, definitely good to be back. It's nice to be, kind of getting back to a normal routine again. So, definitely a lot of fun. I got Jonathan G who's here. Welcome. Give it another couple minutes, and then I'll pull up. Kind of made some notes for tonight. So, we're not going to be doing the going out to the barn tonight. The barn is kind of in disarray with the with the Clash, the auctions, and everything else kind of going on here. So, it's been kind of a little bit of a mess. So, anyways, let me go ahead and I guess we'll get started. Give me one moment here. All right, so I kind of want to talk a little bit. Like I said, it was a really great time. Had a lot of fun. Really enjoyed myself. It kind of reinvigorated my fish hobby a little bit. It was something that was kind of needed. I kind of was looking back, and I hadn't been to a fish show since 2023, with the American Live Bear Association convention that was in Kalamazoo. So that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun as well. But this was, it was excuse me. This was long overdue, and definitely a great time. So, yeah. So the drive to Pennsylvania was good. Wanted to really talk about the fish show a little bit. First of all, I think we'll go ahead and jump in and talk about this. Talk about the something I'm pretty proud of here. This is the Best of Reserve show. From the Keystone Clash. I've got that actually for a gourami. Fish that I was kind of surprised that I got an award for, but nevertheless, definitely something I'm pretty proud of. So I entered 19 entries total, and so I brought all the water for all the 19 entries from Detroit, so that ended up being about 70 gallons of water. I didn't use all of it. I still had a little bit left over. Welcome, Stephen. So that was nice. I had the water left over. I actually ended up using a lot of that I had to rebag a couple fish for the auction. So it was good to have that extra water there. So, if I didn't say it already, howdy, Stephen. So yeah, it was definitely a great time and really enjoyed it. Kind of going through kind of what I entered in the fish show. I entered, the dwarf gourami that we just talked about, got the Best of Reserve show. I entered 4 Gidaids. Entered a Xenotoka eiseni from Nayarit, which is the original Gidaid species. That ended up getting 3rd. Ended up also putting in a Black Prince, Crocodon Audax. That ended up getting 2nd. And then I also entered a Elephorus robustus. He actually ended up in a tank, not necessarily by the other Gidaids, because I put him I reserved a bigger tank for him, and I think that kind of hurt him a little bit because he was not in the general viewing of the judges, so he didn't place. And then I also had a Chapelixes pardalis that also didn't place, so but that's okay. So I entered the 4 Gidaids. One of the other categories I entered, and I think it got moved, I entered other Xiphophorus. So I did enter Xiphophorus halori, but with a location from Belize. And I think the judges actually moved that fish into the other like swordtails. Unfortunately, like when they printed the label, it just said Xiphophorus halori on it, so I think they moved it. And I wasn't going to cause a scene about it, but it is what it is. I also entered 3 fish in the other live bears category. I entered a jaguar live bear, entered a Cilia picta, which is the swamp guppy, which is a pretty cool little fish. And I also entered the Belisonics, which got 2nd place. Ryan entered a really nice Belisonics female, and that got that won the category, and that also almost probably, or sorry, I'm not gonna say that, but that one was almost a really competitive fish for best of show as well. So that was a really nice fish in that category. I did enter 2 swordtails. They were both the marbled swordtails, and unfortunately, they didn't place. And really, unfortunately, I lost them on the way home, which was something I was pretty upset about. They were really nice fish. Let me see if I can pull. Someone sent me a picture, so I might screen share for a second, and I wasn't gonna do it, but I'll pull that picture up, and I'll show that to you guys. So, and she took a really good picture of it too. So her name's Lily. So we'll screen share real quick, and I'll show you. So yeah, so this, and I had a male that wasn't as nice, but this was still a pretty nice fish. I have another female. It's pretty similar, maybe a little bit more white on it, but so thankfully I have that fish, and I have some fry that are looking pretty promising too. So hopefully those will grow up, and I'll have some more that look like this. So a little upset to lose those, and I kind of made a dumb mistake when I was packing the fish in the bag or into the buckets. I accidentally misbagged or misbucketed. I had a pleco, and he was supposed to go in a bigger container, and I didn't want to put him in a smaller one. I didn't really want to lose him, but unfortunately, that really didn't work out so well. So I ended up putting him in the bucket with the swordtails, and really didn't go well. So, so there was those. Entered some cherry shrimp. I've got a lot of cherry shrimp here in the fish room. Entered 5, kind of picked 5 of my nicest, largest reddish shrimp. Those did pretty well. And then also entered a Colombian ram's horn snail. And I actually made a good decision on that. I brought 2 with me, and I kind of picked the most active of the 2 largest ones that I had. And then I put the most active one in the show. That ended up getting 3rd place. Entered a couple guppies. Entered a multicolored guppy that got 3rd place. And then also entered a Stan Schubel blue guppy, but unfortunately that one didn't place. I thought that fish was really competitive, but it wasn't holding its fin up very well. It does have a large tail fin, so I kind of lost points for that. I actually talked to the person who judged that, and unfortunately he didn't mention that to me. So either way, pretty happy with that. Entered a catfish, which after I kind of got there and looked at some of the other catfish, entered a concolor, Hoplosoma concolor. Unfortunately, that one, I could kind of tell it was a little small, so I didn't really think that was going to make it. So, and then also entered the pleco that I mentioned earlier that I put with the swordtails. He was a little bit small. When you're in your fish room, you kind of enter the biggest fish you have. And, when you get there, sometimes you're just looking, you're like, okay, yeah, that's not really going to work. But anyway, brought him, and I probably won't bring him again. He kind of got stuck in the net, and it was kind of a pain to deal with him. I used a fine net, unfortunately, when I was trying to get him out of his holding tank. So, yeah, that didn't really work out so well. But anyways, he was doing well. He lived fine and everything, but he just wasn't big enough. Rainbow fish I entered my largest Melanitania pagua finis. That was a really nice fish, really big, really competitive. That one got second. There was a couple other nice rainbow fish in that group as well. So that really did quite well. And then also entered a Bellasonics. I think I talked about that one already. So I think that was all the fish. Yep, I think I've got everything. So yeah, it definitely was really good. Really happy with the fish show. Like, that's something I've worked for quite a few years now to actually get better at. We'll talk. Actually, next week's stream, I'll probably talk about why you should enter fish in a fish show. Just something I think it's beneficial to do. You get to learn a lot about your fish, learn a lot about the fish that you keep. Like we're like live bears, right? One of the really nice fish there that I was surprised didn't place. There was a really nice large female Eisenite Gadea that was probably bigger than any of the ones that I have. I was kind of surprised that one didn't place. But that was a really nice, big, robust Gadea. And there's some people out there that have some really nice, large, big Gadeas too. And so you get a good idea, of what kind of a typical fish would look like, from that species, right? Because you see them like maybe at a fish store, wherever, and it's maybe they're smaller, but you get to see nice live adult fish. Especially like if you're kind of invested in it, it makes you pay a little bit more attention to it. So River Life is here. River Life Pottery, welcome. Thank you for subscribing. Hello, Fish Fam and Beto Great Lakes. Kind of moving on a little bit more, kind of wrapping up the fish show part of this. Sorry to kind of bore you with this long part of it, but I really wanted to win. That was one of my goals, was to win the fish show. Someone else brought in 40 entries, and then I didn't know that each entry kind of counted as a point. So you could kind of basically win by the more fish you bring. So I only brought 19, so it's kind of at a disadvantage, but anyways, no big deal on that, but it was kind of fun. One of the interesting things, though, I realized as I was going through it, I didn't really think about it when I was signing up fish, is that like 15 out of the 50 like non-photography classes were cichlids. So it was kind of a low, and I didn't enter any cichlids because they're kind of a pain to haul all the way from Michigan, to Pennsylvania. You've got to get big containers and start really, planning a little bit more for those. Maybe even having some air for them. So I didn't enter any cichlids, and those were 15 out of the 50 classes, and so that was a pretty high percentage of cichlids to basically not compete in. So if I were to compete to win again, which I don't know if I will or not next year, we'll see when that time comes. But it was really nice to still nice to compete, get some awards, and have a little bit of fun. So. Anyways, kind of wrapping that part up, but I did judge as well. And so basically, I judged 3 classes. They were the peacock cichlids, all in Buna, and the Lake Tanganyikan cichlids. It's kind of funny because when Scotty asked me to judge, I was a little bit hesitant because I entered so many fish. And I was kind of like, so I told him, I said, hey, I entered a lot of fish in here. And he's like, I'll just have you judge stuff that you're not entered in. So I judged 3 categories that I'm pretty decent with. I do keep a lot of like peacocks and Mbuna and some Lake Tanganyikan cichlids. So I've kept those fish. So I was pretty familiar with them. There's people out there who know a lot more than I do, but that's okay. But yeah, so when I judged it was interesting. So for the peacocks and the Mbuna, it was pretty easy to go through and pick out the top 3. And then it got really hard to pick like the first, second, and third. Because what they taught us to do, and the training's out on Dr. Ted's channel, I believe. So if you go check that out on his channel, you can learn about that, and I think it's just interesting to watch it. Yeah, they were all nice, big, robust fish. Their deportment was good. They were behaving well in the tank. So literally, when I was doing like the peacock cichlids, it was literally they were all within 1 point of each other. And I was talking to one of the guys who entered as we were packing up Saturday night, and I'm like, hey, I was Scuba Steve I was talking to, and I'm like, hey, I mean, these were all within 1 point. Like, there was really hard to differentiate between the three fish. It was, their color was good, their deportment was good, and you could have flipped a coin and gotten any three of those fish in there. And there'll be a video coming out about the fish show. I haven't scheduled it yet. I haven't made it yet, but it was definitely a really hard class to judge. Hello, Susie. Definitely nice to see you again. It's been a long time. So she goes back to the days of the aquatic experience. But yeah, that was a very, very hard class to judge. The Mbuna were a little easier. I don't remember those fish as well. Obviously, lots happened and everything, but since then, but I remember it was easy to pick the first, second, and third. They weren't as close. If I went back and when I go back and edit the video, I'm sure I'll remember which one won. But that one was a little easier. And then the Tanganyikan ones were interesting because the first two were kind of obvious, and the winner was kind of obvious. The winner was the Cyprochromis, and that fish is just hard to travel with. So that fish was really, that fish really stood out to me as a judge because like those don't travel well, and it had good size, good deportment, swimming around out in the open water like you would expect it to. It was a little small for like competing for like the big prizes, but it was still a pretty nice fish. The second one was it was a Lilupi, I believe it was. Had decent deportment. It was kind of a little shyer than like the SIP, but still doing not bad. And then after that, literally the rest of the fish in the class all had their nose in the corner. And so it kind of came down to like if I poked them with the stick, how active were they, and were they just run back to the corner, or did it stay out for a little bit? So I ended up picking. It was a Juliochromis that was kind of like the best of the rest of them. So hello KJE, welcome. Yeah, so it was just that one was hard because you had to pick the third place one was where it got hard. But I enjoyed the fish show. It was a lot of work. So if you ask me right today, would I enter 19 fish again? Don't know, but I think as you go along, go through it again. I think I will. I'll probably change my mind. ALA is coming up in June of next year, and I'm definitely going to be entering some fish in that. So definitely, so I'm really looking forward to that event. It's been a while since I've been to an ALA. And obviously, that's a great place to find some rare fish if you're into that. And then, kind of wrapping up the fish show part of this kind of presentation or this discussion. Like I said, I did have the losses of the two swordtails. That was unfortunate, but generally, I think if you kind of plan it right, you kind of can get. I've kind of figured it out now to really it kind of works kind of well. Like I made kind of a JV mistake by putting the pleco in with the swords. Like if I hadn't have done that, I think I would have had 0 losses for the weekend. Beto asked me, do I like judging? Would I do it again? I would do it again. Hello, Alishan as well. Welcome. I don't know. I mean, I'll do it again, but it was hard. It was actually harder than I thought. Like I was kind of going, like once I knew what classes I was going to judge, I kind of walked around and looked, and I'm like, yeah, that one's, it was kind of obvious to me for the most part, like which three fish they were gonna be. But then it kind of got really hard to determine. So it was hard. It was harder than I thought. But definitely would do it again. I would be more comfortable judging something like a live bearer. Like I said, I'm pretty familiar with these, but like, kind of my wheelhouse is live bearers. So Like if I were to judge like a Molly class, or like, the problem is if I'm judging, a lot of times I'm gonna enter the show, and so I really don't want to, um, you know, I obviously don't want to judge a class that I'm part of it. And it was kind of funny what they were talking about, the best of show, and like my fish came up, and I sort of, backed away at that point, kind of excused myself from the discussion, and let them kind of decide. So, but anyways, like I have a pretty good method. I'm pretty confident in my method of kind of getting fish, to the show, back home again in a pretty decent shape. Everything's doing fine. That's made it back home. The Gourami that actually won Reserve Best of Show is actually going to go back to the Club Bull Show this month, since Gouramis are the Club Bull Show for the month. So that fish is going to be pretty well traveled here in the last few weeks. So moving on from that, we'll talk a little bit about the speakers. One of my goals for this event was to go ahead and see speakers. I really had lost track of that in a lot of prior events. I really spent a lot of time just hanging out in the vendor room and talking to people, which is all good and everything. But I kind of missed that aspect that I had when I was in my saltwater hobby of going to speakers, learning about things, watching other people's talks. That kind of aspect of the shows. I really kind of lost that. And I really wanted to get back to that educational side a little bit more during these shows. And I think I accomplished that this time. So the talks I went to, I didn't get to all of them, unfortunately. I probably should have gone to a few more. But ended up going to Corey's talk, where he talked about burnout and the aquarium hobby. And it was very interesting because he had no slides. So he just did it kind of, like he prepared for it, but he did it without a presentation, which I thought was very interesting. And it was very interactive with the audience, because he would let people in the audience ask him, what kind of burnout are you having? And then, he kind of talked about, and this was in the video I put out on Sunday, but he talked about having an aquarium buddy that kind of holds you accountable, which is kind of something that I don't have a lot of times. I have friends in the club, but the club's kind of a little far away from me. It's about 35, 40 minutes. So I don't really have that right now, but I do a pretty good job on my own to kind of at least keep myself somewhat accountable with, keeping the fish barn kind of at least semi-operational. So Zenzo's talk was really good as well. He talked about his journey, kind of working in the aquarium hobby, and how he went from doing various things like having his maintenance business, to doing videos, and how he built his brand, which was pretty interesting. He kind of tied that in with his motorcycle racing in the past, which I think is kind of interesting to have that experience, which kind of helped him. I also saw Rick Borstein's G'day talk. Really enjoyed that one. There was parts of it that were kind of similar to the talk that I've given, but it was really good. Actually really enjoyed part of his talk was the fry system. He had a pretty interesting fry system that he set up. Something that I kind of have implemented a little bit on my own. Mine's a little bit different because I use a lot of rock on the bottom, so the fish have some hiding spots. But he kind of splits the tanks in half. It has an open area, and then he has an area that's really planted for fry, for them to hide in. So that's something I'll definitely look into if I'm struggling with some fish. And then I saw Dr. Ted's pond talk. That was very entertaining. If you watch part of the my Keystone Clash video, you can see him doing the La Bamba dance, and he had a pretty funny section. It's not appropriate for YouTube, but he had a pretty fun section in that talk where he did kind of the 10 things about Scotty, which was kind of interesting. So I have that. I actually filmed that, and then I was like, I can't use that. With that, kind of the last part of the Keystone Clash was the auction. They had a really great selection. They had 828 bags, and they got through that. They started, I think, about 11:30, and they were done by 5-ish. So they made pretty good time with that. The auctioneers were good. They got through the bags pretty quickly, and there were some really great live bears there. Like, I didn't really know, what to expect. It's kind of not my home area, but I came home with some pretty interesting stuff. One of the things I've wanted to get back in the fish room for a while now are some more wild Xiphophorus species. As I was kind of going through there, through my fish room and the fish lists and all that stuff, those had kind of fallen off here in the fish room. So I decided it was time to get those back going again and get those, get those kind of teed up and start getting those fish kind of breeding again back in the fish room. So I picked up like the Xiphophorus maye, which is a pretty neat fish. I've got the Montezuma, which is one that I've kind of played with a little bit, but one that I'm pretty excited about as well. And then got the Nezzies back again. I had them in a tub, not this season, but the season before. But they were kind of fussy, and I've kind of struggled with that fish a little bit too. They're kind of shy. These ones seem a little better, but I'm happy to have those back. I want to get those nice and big. Hopefully I can get those kind of grown out a little bit for the ALA show. And then, and I got a wild type, another wild type Helleri as well. It's the Xiphophorus Helleri from Rio Ayatoak. That's a really cool fish. If you look that fish up, it's got some really nice red markings on it. So that's one that's I'm really looking forward to. So, I think one of the interesting things too about going to auctions in other parts of the country, you see things where people, excuse me. Yeah, so you see things from other parts of the country, right, where people kind of value different fish differently. Like, for example, I've talked quite a few times here on the channel about, South and Central American cichlids, and the fact you don't really see them around Metro Detroit. Really, you just don't see them, and it's, they were pretty highly valued. I mean, there's a lot of people who keep those, and they really kind of value those. One thing you didn't see a lot of, you saw very few Africans. You saw some, but our auction still, and I'm curious to see if the death of cichlid in this area is going to continue. I'm curious if you keep seeing less and less cichlids. Before it was like half. So I'm very curious to see that cichlid table at the auction once we once we kind of get going there. So MNC's asked a question. Any advice on keeping the knife live bearer? I think it's kind of a fry eater, so you're going to want to pull females. Other than that, it's kind of like keeping anything else. I think when I kept it, I kept it in I tried it in a tub, and that's where I lost all of them, unfortunately. But I would just keep it with a lot of cover, put a lot of guppy grass in it, and go from there. And then the one thing, kind of, finishing up the auction, is I did sell a lot of stuff. I brought, I think it was 30 lots in total, but a lot of it was like plants and stuff, and ended up doing pretty well. I basically ended up paying for the couple $100 of fish I bought, and then ended up having like $50 left over, which was kind of a nice thing. So, there is something to be said for. So Alishan says that cichlids around here are almost non-existent except for angelfish. Yeah, some people have had really good luck with knife live bears. Mine were kind of like I got like a few fry, but never ever completely bred them and BAP'd them. So that went pretty well. And then I do want to switch gears. I did decide to be kind of a glutton for punishment, and go last Saturday to the Southwest Michigan Aquarium Society auction, which is, if you're watching a lot of the videos, that's one I go to quite a bit. I was debating it because I was like, I really value my sleep, and was pretty tired after the Clash, but I decided to to kind of suck it up and go, and I'm very glad I did. So I found some even more, we talked about kind of, I wanted to get more of the wild Xiphophorus back in the fish room, and I really found some cool stuff. If you're on the Discord, I put one of them, picture of one of the bags out there, because I found a new Gadaeid species. It was the Xiphophorus captivus, or the green Gadaeid, one I've never seen for sale before, so I had to pick that up. That was one where I was literally going to spend as much money as it required to take that fish home, and I was actually very surprised that I got away with what I spent. I thought that I was going to be spending over $100, and I ended up getting that for $60, which I was, which was perfect. They've settled in nicely, doing well. They're a little shy, but oh no, Beto, it's on the fish. It's on the Discord that Steven has. It's not mine. So if you go to Steven's channel, you can find it, like in the description, I think it is. But it's the fish cord that Steven and those guys have. So I posted it on there. But there'll be a video that's going to come out on that. I did film those and film the auction. That was a great auction. There was a lot of nice domestic live bears at that auction too. And that was where I actually got the marble swords that you guys saw earlier. So I also found a bunch of other, wild Xiphophorus species. I got the Rio Coquilco fish back again. I got the what else did I get back? Got the Xiphophorus clemensiae, and then one other like rare platy too that was pretty cool. It was that I got as well. So that was pretty nice. It was a pretty nice auction, and again, I sold there. So I think between the so I think between like the two auctions, with what I sold at both auctions, including like guppy grass and stuff like that, ended up basically breaking even. I think I was like $20 in the hole. I think I bought like $350 worth of fish. But with what I sold to kind of make up for it, I ended up with like like a $20 bill. So like I said, I was really happy with the auction. The fish room right now is kind of to be quite honest with you, it's kind of a cluster. I've kind of bought more fish than I have tanks for at the moment, which I am working to remedy. I actually did find some space to add 2 more tanks to the barn, so I'm going to be working on that. I've already started that process. I had a couple of extra 29 gallons that I have sitting around in the basement, so I've got those painted, drilled. I just have to hook up the plumbing. Yesterday was kind of the last day of second summer, so I was able to rinse out some gravel. Got gravel ready to go. So I just have to get them set up, get them plumbed in, and get them planted, and should be good to go. So like I said, the fish barn is sort of a work in progress. So hopefully in the next few days and over the weekend, I can get that straightened away, and then we can go back out there next week, and I can show you a little more about the new fish. But it was like I said, both auctions, the Clash, were a great time. It was really it was really nice seeing all the people again, like Susie Q mentioned. It was just nice to see everybody. It was it was a lot of fun, and it was much needed. I got to meet Dr. Ted, which was cool. Talked a little bit more with Steven and Jenna. Talked to Grant and Shelby. It was very heartwarming to see all the people that came up to me and said, "Hey, you're the guy with the barn." So sometimes you kind of sit down here. I'm down here in the basement editing videos, and you kind of think, you kind of send them out into the internet, and then you really don't know what effect they have on people because you don't get that personal interaction with it. So it was really nice to have people come up to me, talk to me, say they like the videos. Kind of means more than you know. I think any content creator would tell you that. So hello, Curtis. It was nice meeting you in person finally. So yeah, it's one of the things. It's one of those things that you just as a creator, I think if you're, if you it's just interesting. Once you get that feedback from like a real person in real life, right? You can have 10,000 subscribers, but I think that personal interaction is what kind of makes it, ties it all together for me. So I've been rambling for about 40 minutes now, so let's go ahead and talk about the fish game real quick. We'll go ahead and we'll do Chelsea's fish game. So let me get the screen sharing all squared away here, and we'll jump right into that. So. Chat. All right, so we are at the fish game. I'm going to warn you today that the fish game has a very salty flavor to it. Did not see. So I am going to do some with the Keystone Clash fish from the show. So let's go ahead and flip through these. So if you're new here, I'm going to show you a picture of the fish. Go ahead and guess in chat how basic you think the fish are, between 1 to 10. 1 being basic, 10 being very cool. After a few moments, I'll go ahead and I'll show you her answer. Before we get into that, though, I do want to say part of the nice thing, too, about the trip down to Kalamazoo for the SWMAS auction was the fact I got to see my daughter. So I stopped on my way back home. It's not too much of a detour to hit East Lansing. We went to this restaurant. I think it was like the Pretzel Bell or something like that. It was kind of a dive bar kind of theme, but she's not old enough to partake in all of that. But so we hit that up. Was really it was good to see her. She's handling everything pretty well with college, which was nice to see. And she had her first exams. She said they went pretty well, so pretty happy about that. So we'll go ahead here. We'll run through the game real quick. And first one up here, I've got one of the saddleback clownfish. I'm not sure which one this is. I think it's just maybe a saddleback. But yeah, Zenny's not here tonight, so you guys might have a chance. So let me know what you guys think. So Skull's got 8. We'll let the Uncle Smiley's got 7. Yeah, we'll go ahead and like I said, I'm gonna pull some from the fish show, and we'll do those. Like I may even have her rank them from like 1 to whatever number. Like I'll pick like the 5 best or whatever and have her rank them. So we got Beto. Oh, Fishroom Fever has made an appearance. Welcome, James. Nice to see you in the chat, buddy. Been a long time. So Fishroom Fever's got 6. Kind of came out of the out of the woodwork. So that's good to see. Nice to have you on here, buddy. So we'll give it a couple more minutes. So give it a couple seconds here. Hello, JP Jeffries. How's it going? So, Beto asked if there was any saltwater stuff at the Clash. There was. There was a coral vendor. Like I said, I didn't spend a ton of time in the vendor room. And there was also a saltwater class, excuse me. And I think there's an individual who enters every single year, and I think she enters 2 clownfish, and she wins both years. I was very tempted to buy like a clownfish and just put it in, get like a 20-gallon tank and keep a clownfish and enter it in the show. I'm sure I could keep one alive and travel with it and do okay with it. But then Davo's got 4. So let's go ahead and excuse me, and flip it over here. So that one, Davo got it right here at the end. 4 out of 10. So whatever reason, didn't like the saddlebacks very well. These were some of my favorites. They have a pretty interesting swimming pattern, and these ones I really kind of enjoy. So all right, moving onward, maybe. Oh, we didn't see that. All right, let me make sure yep. All right. So next one up here is Diamond Goby. Don't look at your screen for a second. I overflipped. So definitely, I saw this one at a fish store a couple years ago, and I was like, that's kind of a cool little fish. I think I had one for a brief moment too. But nice little sand sifting goby. Kind of a lot of fun. A lot of fun little fish if you like kind of like the blennies and gobies and all that. So, oh yeah, you're gonna see it. So Skull's got 8. Try not to look at your screen for that. So yeah, M&C's got 8. Uncle Smiley's got 7. Skull's got 8. Beto's got 9. Alishan's got 5. So yeah, I actually met Alishan at the Clash too. I forgot about that. It was nice meeting him too. So yeah, James saw. Yeah, so no guest. Yeah, I was not. Definitely not. Was not skilled with the PowerPoint skills there. So yeah, since everyone saw it, we'll give it another couple seconds, and then we'll go ahead and we'll flip it over. 7 out of 10. So yeah, he kind of does. They're a little bit more slender. MSC, I flipped it one too many slides and put the result on if you were fast enough to catch it. So all right, flip it over here. We've got the Nassau Tang, one of my favorites. Skull's comment was pretty funny. Thought it looked like Skipper. So yeah, so you got the Nassau Tang, one of my favorites. I had this fish quite a while. I kept these for a couple different times actually. Got really nice and big, got about yay big or so. You need a big tank. It lived in the 245-gallon that's currently got the African cichlids in it, but one of my favorites for sure. Fun fish. Little not terribly aggressive for tangs. I mean, tangs are kind of nasty. They can be. This one's pretty chill-ish. You know, they can get a little territorial, but as long as that, I always kept tangs with different body shapes. So I always would take, like a Nassau, and then I would take, I I'd put like a zebra soma, like either like a yellow tang a lot of times, or like a scopus or whatever. So Beto's got 9, Skull's got 7, M&C's got 7.5, Alishon's got 8, Uncle Smiley's got 5, Fishman Fever's got 6. Yeah, so I would take this, just get different body shapes, or you'd have to add them together at the same time, and they'd kind of work out their territories and figure everything out, kind of establish dominance, and it all kind of worked out. I was able to have some pretty good success with tangs, actually. So I think you guys are going to be a little surprised by this one, but we'll give it another second or two for anyone else who wants to guess. Going once, going twice, 5. So actually, Uncle Smiley got it. Thought she gave this a 4. Alishon remembers that when the yellow tangs were like $15. Yeah, saltwater's gotten like wild expensive now. The captive bred ones I understand because those are like insanely hard to breed. Jennifer's in here. Welcome, Jennifer. Those are kind of just kind of hard, kind of tough. So, but anyways, got a 5 out of 10 for that. So it was a little lower than I thought. These are real pretty fish in person. So. Up next here, another tang, kind of a tang theme tonight. We've got the Desjardins tang, pretty nice looking fish. So another one that's really pretty. Got kind of nice markings on it. A little bit better looking than Naso tang. This is, I believe this is another, yeah, this is a zebra stoma. So like I would take this fish, and a lot of times I would pair it with back with this guy, kind of put them in maybe at the same time, kind of let them like do their thing. So we've got Skull's got 10, SD Catahoulus, welcome, it's got 9. Uncle Smiley's got 8. Davo's got 8. Alishon's got 8, and so as well as Beto. So yeah, these are pretty fish. I mean, I don't think I kept this particular one. I kept a lot of other ones. I would actually do a lot of yellows. Did I do a purple? I'm trying to remember. I don't think I did. There's some that get crazy. If you look up like a gem tang or purple ones were kind of expensive too, if I remember correctly. Maybe I had a purple. I'm trying to remember. Maybe someday I'll get back into saltwater again. But unfortunately, I think I threw out my big skimmer. So. But anyways, let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and we'll flip it here in just a second for the ranking. So she gave that a 7. I think she probably was a little muted for her, but yeah, gems. I would figure gems would be like $1,000. So that's actually a little cheap for them. I thought, maybe there's people out there that they're coming in more. So yeah, so the next fish that we got on the list here, another tang. This is the clown tang, one that I've never kept. This one is a little bit less hardy to keep. I think this one's a little more aggressive, on the aggressive side as well. So I had a saltwater buddy of mine at the time that kept one of these. Really cool fish. Yeah, you can do a saltwater setup with a hang on back. I don't know if I would enough. It's tough to do it, but you can keep some of the easier fish with a hang on back if you do like a fowler tank. Yeah, so if you do like a Fowler tank, you could definitely do it with a hang-on back, and then just make sure you have a lot of live rock and stuff like that, so that you can have enough bacteria to kind of keep it going. But you could do a clownfish. I mean, you can do it with a sponge filter too. You can keep a saltwater clownfish tank with a sponge filter. I mean, if you go back into the history of my channel, like my clownfish tanks were not pretty. Um, you know, I ran them on a sump just to kind of get some filtration going with them. Um, but yeah, you could run them with sponge filter. I mean, I wouldn't do that with a reef tank, but if you're just keeping the fish, you can run it with a like a hang-on back and a sponge filter, and you know, be successful at keeping the fish alive. You know, you may have, you know, depending on how you set up your water and things like that, you might have some like algae issues, but other than that, I mean, yeah, you can keep a saltwater fish with this freshwater tank. And you just have to remember to refill it um, with plain water instead of salt water, just to make sure your salinity stays kind of correct. But um, other than that, I mean, and if you're not keeping corals, I mean, if your salinity changes a little bit, it's not, for a lot of the fish, not all of them, but for a lot of the fish, it's not the end of the world. I mean, one of the ways that they treat disease in the saltwater world is to do hyposalinity, so take it down to like, kind of brackish levels, and a lot of times that will kill like the freshwater ick and things like that. So, yep. So with the clown tang, 9 out of 10. She really liked this one. So it looks like Beto and SC Cat Hula's got that. So yeah, so that's the end of the fish game. So I think that was the last one. Yep. So we'll flip all of our screens back around again, and we'll get back after it here. So. All right, and then yeah, people did under gravel filters. I mean, I think I did that in the '80s when I kept trying to keep butterfly fish and stuff. I had a under gravel filter with 29 gallon with like the nasty, like whatever it was. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, like Alishon doing yeah, I've done those too. I think there's even a video on the channel about kind of doing a freshwater dip too. I think I did one a long time ago when I did a little more saltwater content. I think one of the nastiest diseases I've had though was velvet. That was absolutely abhorrent and gross. So so that's kind of the wrap up of the Clash and kind of the SWMAS auction and everything. Really, like I said, it was a great time. One of the things that kind of happened kind of before, which was kind of a bummer, I was going to bring it up earlier, but kind of forgot about it. We had our 19-year-old cat actually, like the day before I was going to leave for the Clash, started having some health problems. Turned out, so my wife had to take him to the emergency vet Wednesday night before I left for the Clash, and he was not looking too hot. But thankfully, I kind of left. He was still looking a little rough the day I left for the Clash. But he ended up having like a bladder infection, and they gave him some medicine and some painkillers. And by the time I got back, thankfully, he was looking a lot better. He was doing pretty well. He was active. He's been eating again now, and he's kind of back to his normal self a little bit. I think kind of an interesting story about that is we did call my daughter up at college. Like I said, did I say 19? I meant 17. It's getting late. Sorry. Yeah, so, he's a 17-year-old cat. So he basically kind of grew up with my daughter. So it was funny because we FaceTimed my daughter before we took him to the vet. And she wanted to talk to him via FaceTime. So she... my wife put the phone up to where he was lying down at, and he popped his head right back up as soon as he heard her voice, and he's like, he kind of perked up a little bit. And I thought it was very interesting to see that relationship between the two of them. Obviously, she was pretty upset about that, but he, thankfully he pulled through, and he's eating. He's in the mix again. So he's doing a lot better. So that was something I'm pretty thankful for. That I kind of came back to. I kind of prepared myself for the worst when I left, but it was turned out well. Really happy that that worked out, and Rocky's doing good. So I think with that, we're at 8:56. I saw some notifications on my phone. Looks like a couple people are going live after me. Looks like Science Gal is going live. I don't know if she's been live in a while. And then looks like Bentley's going live as well. So you check out either one of those two. And then kind of with that, we'll be back next week. I think we'll talk about why you should enter a fish show. I think it's something I definitely recommend. And we'll get back into the barn again. I'll get my act together and get the barn kind of back in order, and I can show you the new fish a little bit more in depth than we did today. But really wanted to cover the Clash. Definitely be going back next year. It was a lot of fun, and really great event. And if you've not gone, definitely would highly recommend it. So kind of with that, thank you guys for watching. I think I'm going to do one thing real quick first. I think we'll donate some memberships to the channel. So we're going to send out some memberships for some folks. If you've not, if you do get a membership, I would highly recommend checking out my G'day talk that's on the that's on there. It's definitely something that's worth watching, I think. And then I do release videos early for members when I get the chance to. So I definitely recommend watching that as well. So day 57. I'm still a little tired from the Clash. So with that, have a great night. Stay fishy, and I will see you next Tuesday.